guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry I've been taking long to upload a new video. Been a busy month for me. So like I said on my previous video, I'll be talking today about Brandon and just about his whole lifehood and what he went through and etc, etc. Yeah. So today let's start with his childhood. Overall, Brandon, from what I know and from what he told me, he had a wonderful childhood. He had loving parents, loving family. He was just a happy kid. He went everywhere. He traveled. He went to Disneyland a lot as a kid. He went to Legoland. And yeah, it was just like a dream childhood for him. He attended different schools just because it's transition of moving different places and stuff. Yeah, but I can honestly say as a young boy, he went through a trauma that really traumatized him a lot, and he didn't speak out about it growing up. And sometimes with things as we go, when things happen to us as kids, we sometimes are afraid of our parents, or afraid from someone not believing us, or afraid of just certain things. And yeah, so if you're someone who has experienced some hardship or a trauma that really has traumatized you in your life, then speak out to someone and just let it out, because it really helps letting it out. Because I feel like if you hold on to it, you just build up a lot of hate and just a grudge against something or someone, you know. So overall, he was just such a loving boy. He loved his mom so much. He loved his siblings, and he, as he grew up and went to middle school, he was actually a straight A student, I believe. He had really good grades, that's from what his mother told me. And yeah, and I believe he attended another middle school where he was new, and he met some friends who were bad company. And you know, from there, when you meet friends who aren't all that good, you start doing a lot of bad things and just rebelling. And it happens, you know. It happens to some kids, and it doesn't happen to others. It just all depends on yourself. So that's what happened to him. He met some friends who were no good and just started rebelling a lot in his teenage years. But overall, his favorite sport he played was baseball. So overall, growing up, he was still doing baseball. At least he was in sports and stuff. And yeah, once he got to high school, I feel like that's when he started discovering himself more and just getting to know who he was as a person and stuff. And you know, just getting to experience a lot of new things. And as from what he told me, that's, again, he started rebelling a lot, and he just started trying a lot of things. I know as we grow old, we tend to try things and just experience different things, and that's exactly what he did. And also hanging around bad company. So yeah, he was skipping class, he was obviously smoking weed and other stuff, and just trying to live his life, you know, trying to live a fast life. He was trying to be an adult while he was still a teen. Yeah, so I didn't meet Brandon until he was 18, and from those years of me getting to know him, who he was as a person, he told me all the dumb things and all the funny things he did as a kid and as a teenager. And sometimes you wonder, like, why, you know, like, why do we rebel, or why do we do things, you know? And yeah, and as he was growing, he was such a very loving person. When I actually met him, he wasn't living currently with his parents. He had left because he was 18, and you know, as a teenager, you think like, okay, once I'm 18, Let me get out of my house. Let me go live my life. Let me go do whatever I want. I'm free. But it's not all butterflies and rainbows once you leave your parents' house. So for him, it was really hard because he left because he wanted to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to live his life, and that's when I met him, and that's when me as a person, I tend to love really hard, so I really cared for him and fell in love with him, so I wanted to help him, and that's when I brought him into my household to live with me because I didn't like him seeing him be house to house with like friends and stuff, and it's just something I didn't want for him. And although knowing he had a home, yeah, but he didn't feel comfortable being in his home, so I opened up my parents' house to him, and that's when he came into my life and started living with me. As time passed, I tried my best for him. I tried my best to change him, for him to be a better person, for him to leave the bad habits he had, the bad company he was around with. And it was honestly really hard for him just because, he had barely started doing whatever he wanted. He wanted to do what he wanted, and it was just hard for me to just come in and say, all right, change your life. Didn't have his biological father in his life, although he did have a great stepfather. I honestly feel like that's another part that affected him. It's not having his real dad and knowing that his real dad wasn't in his life, and thinking who his dad wasn't actually his dad. So that's a part of his life that really did hit him hard, and he didn't really know how to express that to anybody until he was with me. At the point of our relationship is where he opened up and said that it really affected him, knowing that he was lied to, that he didn't have that fatherly connection with the person he thought was his father, and it's just something that really affected him. And although I know we see it all the time on TV or in real life that a lot of kids don't have their fathers and have step parents, and yeah, but I feel like that really does affect a household and a home. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. And in his case, it did affect him, and that's what led for him to rebelling, I feel like, and doing what he wanted to do just because he felt like, right, he had that choice and that decision to make, to do whatever he wanted, just because he wanted to let out the pain and the anger he felt and that he was withholding inside him. Besides that, he was such a really good person to me. Like I said, once you enter a relationship, it's all like lovey-dovey, honeymoon stage, and you don't really get to meet a person until you're living with them or you're actually seeing them on a daily basis. Something very personal is where obviously I was a teenager. I was 15 and a half, and probably 16, and he was about 19. So there was points in our relationship where it got very bad. There was points where it led to domestic violence. I was the one getting physically abused, and though I knew it wasn't his intention to do that, I just felt like it was right in the moment, just because, okay, maybe he's upset and let me just allow him to do what he has to do, and obviously because I loved him and I didn't know about that. My parents never talked to me about that, or I've never saw it or experienced it, And that's when I meant in my last video that things got really bumpy in that point, and that had happened in our beginning of our year of a relationship. As time went by, I started really getting to know him. He really started getting to show his true colors. he started, you know, like I said, we were living in a domestic violence relationship, abuse and stuff. And I just felt like that was part of just his anger he withheld inside of him. And he did a lot of hurtful things to me, and it caused me a lot of pain. It caused me, for myself to say now, today, I mean, I have some trauma, not so much though, to the point where I say I needed to go seek, to go, I don't know, to go do bad stuff or just to get my mind off it. I loved him to the point where I allowed everything, and to a point where that domestic violence abuse had stopped for both of us. It stopped to the point when we realized in our third year of our relationship, when we found out we were parents, all that stopped, and we just wanted to better ourselves. Mostly him. He wanted to be better. He wanted to be a father to our son. He wanted to be that father he never had, you know. And so yeah, all that stopped. And when our son was a year old, Brandon was currently working, and I didn't know, there was a point in his life where I didn't know what was going on with him. And so one day I realized he was using meth, crystal meth, and I had no idea that that was going on in front of me or in front of my house, around my household, until I found it and caught him. And it was hard for me to find that, being around me and my son. It was just really hard, and like at the time I didn't know how to react or what to do. I think the best thing I could do was just tell him to stop, and he tried his best. He did stop. I'm thankful to God that he did stop that hard drug, because it was pretty bad for him. And yeah, then from there I felt like his depression and bipolar disorder started kicking in, because like I said, the reason why his depression kicked in is because he went through a trauma in his childhood, and finding out that his father wasn't actually his biological father. And another reason why was just because our son was actually born with a cleft lip. So I felt like all that just took a toll on him and just brought him down a little bit more than he was already down. And for him, he started seeking for therapy. Started seeking therapy to speak to a psychologist, and I believe he had found one. And yeah, like a normal person, you go and see psychologist, and you just talk about how you're feeling and stuff. And at the time, I believe the psychologist prescribed him Xanax, and I didn't know at the time that he had anxiety, and that's why the reason why they prescribed that to him. And my point is that he had a very addictive personality, so I didn't know he was consuming the Xanax. You know, I thought it was just, okay, you have anxieties, alright, just take it, you know. But I didn't actually think he was abusing it the way he was. And a year or two passed by. He was on a good track. He was alright. He was just smoking weed, and that's fine, because I mean, who doesn't smoke weed, right? Although I tried many times to stop him, because I just wanted him to better himself and just leave any type of drugs and stuff, just because I always used to tell him doing these things aren't going to help you forget or make that anger or hate go away. So the year passed, 2 years passed by. We reached the point of our relationship where we weren't just getting along, because like I said, I wanted him to better himself just because we had our son already and just for himself, you know. And so I guess he didn't like that, and I guess, like I said, we got together at a young age, so that's at the point of a relationship when our son was 2.5. We took our first breakup, so we separated for some time, and you know, from there you would see our son and stuff, and me as the person I am, I loved him so much. It really affected me, him leaving us, and I just wanted the best for him. I just wanted him to be someone better for himself and for our family. So yeah, he was doing him and I was doing me for the best for our son and stuff. We were co-parenting, and that was something good. And then, like I said, I live hard, so I always did my best to come back and look for him and just try to help him and be there for him. And we ended up getting back together within a month of being separated. And from there, everything was fine. We were fine. He was a better father. He was there for our son. He was there for me as a partner. And then when our son was 4 years old, that's when I realized he started doing Xanax again. And this time it was really hard, to the point where there would be nights where he would just take off and just leave, and I'll just stay home alone with our son. He would just leave. He'll just leave to go find whoever was selling Xanax, or you know, whoever had it. So he would just leave and he'll be gone for a day or two, and I wouldn't even hear from him. And it just really hurt so much to see him go down that road. It hurt so much. And there's times where he'll come back and I would see him all like that. And you can't get to a person, you can't get into their mind when they're on something or any like substance, drugs or anything. Like, you can't make them stop, or you can't change their mind right away. There was a point where the drug was taking over him, and that point was where I tried my best to waking him up from it. I tried my best to making him stop it, or making him forget about it, and just to look at me and just see that what he had in front of him, or to see his son and see what he was missing out on. And at that point is where I got so upset, to the point where I ended up just abusing him, just hitting him, just because I wanted him to wake up from it. Like, I wanted him to see what he was doing, or how he was affecting me, how was he affecting his son. And in that point, I had no rights to doing that, and I regret it always. And the drug just really took over him, where he didn't know what he was doing anymore. And myself, I ended up getting arrested that night, so it really hurt me. One, because I was leaving my son behind. Two, because he was on a drug and I couldn't wake him up. I couldn't bring him back to reality. I couldn't do anything. And yeah, that happened, and I told myself I wasn't going to go back to that. But like I said, I love pretty hard, so I ended up staying. And a couple months passed by, and I think almost a year passed by, and again we're back in the same situation, with the abuse and stuff. And it was just so hard, you know. Like,
I didn't know what to do no more. I didn't know how to help him. I didn't know in what power I can make him change, or how can I get into his mind and just help him change and become someone better for himself and for his son, or for his family as well. And yeah, again, like I said, I had to do a lot with being around a bad crowd. And again, he would go missing, or he would leave. This time around, he would leave for a week, and without me knowing where he was, or without him contacting me, where there was a point where I was terrified, thinking, oh my God, something happened to him. Is he alright? What is he doing? You know? And it was just really hard. It got really hard for him to leave it alone and stop consuming that. And after that, he wanted to turn his life around. He wanted to do better. He wanted to be someone in life for himself. And I was so happy because he stayed 10 months sober. He was working. He had gotten into the union. He had so many goals and dreams. It was something very amazing to see him change. He wanted to be the best person he could ever be. I was so proud of him. I still am. And that's when our second son came. And he really helped him change a lot more. Because he knew he missed out a lot on our first son. And he was doing everything in his power to be better. And he really was. He was doing his best. And we were so proud of him. I was so proud of him. His family was proud of him. Everything was great for those 10 months until the pandemic hit, and I felt like everything was crashing down, not just on us, but with everybody in the world. When someone's struggling with depression, bipolar disorder, or even addiction, it's hard because your mind is just running all over the place and just thinking and thinking and thinking if you should be doing the right thing, or if you should just go and buy that one thing you need in your system to make you forget about everything. And COVID happened, the holidays happened, November for Thanksgiving. We still celebrated Halloween. We dressed up as a family. We still celebrated Thanksgiving. He made his famous mashed potatoes. It was something different because we didn't have our family members around like we usually do. So it was just something small, and it was just us. And I feel like that took a toll on all of us, and especially him, not to have family around. But I was so thankful because he still had a job. He was still working. It was keeping his mind busy. And Christmas came. He was so excited because he was able to buy both his kids all the gifts he wanted them to have. He wanted it. He wanted to enjoy every moment he had with them. And at the time I started working, so I didn't really
I wasn't really there for him when he really needed me, just because I was working and I was just always so tired, and plus because he worked the afternoon night shifts and stuff, so we didn't really get to see each other or spend time with each other. And he, like I said, he was doing his best he could to make us all happy. He was always working weekends also, and we didn't really get a chance to be with each other until mid-December is when we really started getting close to each other and being there for each other. And then, like I said, there's a point where a person can only take so much and do so much for another person. And I felt like I was I felt like we were becoming really distant, and felt like, I would always do my part and be there for him and try to help him. But if I can't, if me just saying words can't help him, then I always told him he has to figure it out and do it on his own. Because a person has to really want it. A person has to really want to change for them, not just for the person they love or for their kids, but for themselves. They have to do what they have to do for themselves. And I felt like it hit him hard. I felt like it was affecting him, not having me there, be there for him. Although I was there for him, but not always supportive in my last times. I felt like I needed to be more supportive and be more there for him, more than ever. And the month of January came. We were happy on New Year's. We were drinking, we were celebrating. We wanted to have a whole fresh new start and start all over again and just do better this year for ourselves and for our kids. And yeah, we were fine. And I honestly thought we were fine. I honestly thought this year was gonna be the best year of our life. I thought this year was gonna bring so much joy and happiness, and that there's so many thoughts that just went through my mind, like how I pictured this year going. But unfortunately, on January 10th, I was with Brandon the whole day. I was with him. We went out. We had gone out to grab a cup of coffee and stuff with our second son. Our oldest was actually with his grandmother at the time. So we were just us three together. And for me being with Brandon for so many years and just knowing how he looked and how he acted when something wasn't right, or when he was consuming something he wasn't supposed to, or I just already had a bad feeling. Had something in me just knew something wasn't right. And I asked him many times as we were driving if he was okay, if something was going on. And so I started noticing that something was wrong with him, and just noticing that he wasn't okay. So we got back home and we ended up getting some food, grabbing some food before we actually went straight home. We grabbed our food and stuff. Everything was normal. Our cart ride was normal. We ended up getting home, and I just saw that he was off balance a little bit, and I just started wondering why, what was going on. He looked very different, and I was acting very strange, so I just wanted to know exactly what was going on. So we went to our bedroom, and I was gonna open my door. And before opening my door, I had questioned him what was going on, and just questioned him if he was on something. And obviously at the moment he was denying everything, that he was okay, that he was on nothing, that he was just tired, or that his foot was hurting because he did sprain his ankle a week before, so he was still recovering from that. So
And I was like, okay. So we got into our bedroom, and I asked him one more time. I told him to tell me the truth, what was going on, because I didn't want to play no games. I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to know what was going on, and if he was on something, for him to be honest with me. And I sat on the bed, and that's when he opened up to me and said, yeah, something is on. He had mentioned that he had found the Xanax, and I was very confused at the time. I was like, what do you mean you found the Xanax? Like, how do you just find the Xanax in our home? Like, that doesn't happen. And so he had apologized to me. He had said sorry for letting me down, sorry for doing things behind my back and stuff. And in the moment, I wasn't upset, I wasn't mad, I wasn't anything in the moment. Yeah, I was hurt because it hurt me. Like, man, like we were doing so good, you know? And just to find out that he's doing that again, like it hurt me because I didn't want to go through it no more. I didn't want to put up with it no more. I was tired of it already. I want better for my kids, you know? And at the time, I took his apology and I told him it was alright, it was okay, and that I forgave him, and it was fine. And I had given him the option and had told him I think it was time for us, you know, to separate, to take a break, and just for us to do our own thing to see how things play out and stuff. And I offered him, obviously I'm not a bad person or evil person where I'm gonna be like, alright, you know what, leave my house, pack your things and get out of here. So I offered him to stay and be with us until he found his own spot, you know, he can continue to be with us in another bedroom and stuff. And so he agreed. He said, yeah, that's fine. I was like, okay. And then automatically I already knew it was the drugs talking, and I knew it wasn't him. Because when I tell you it overpowers you, it overpowers you. And so he was asking me to take him to go and buy Xanax and stuff, and just for him to do it and stuff, and or for me to let him borrow my vehicle, and I told him no. For me to let him borrow my father's vehicle, and I said no. And I just said no, no, no to anything. And like I said, I wasn't mad or anything. I didn't yell at him. I didn't scream at him. I just said no. Like, I wasn't going to put up with this no more. And if he wanted to do what he wanted to do, then he can find his way. And he knew where that was going to lead him to. And obviously I always talk to him about this drug and how there's drugs out here right now that are obviously taking lives of many people just because they are fake, you know. And obviously he knew that point of his life because he knew, you know, because he saw artists pass away. He heard of other people pass away due to those pills and stuff. And he had a previous experience of an overdose, and he knew already. He knew the warnings, he knew the consequences, and I just always told him I never wanted to receive a phone call that was gonna torment me the rest of my life. And he knew all the risks he was taking. And like I say, when you have a choice to be better, I'm being honest with you guys, like, you really have the choice. You have to want it for yourself. Nobody else can change you but you. So at this point, it's where he went out, he stepped out, he went out to go smoke, and yeah, he would usually go down the block from where I live to go smoke and stuff. And then, yeah, Later on, I received a missed call, but I couldn't answer. And then I received a text message from him asking me to come down and just give him some money and stuff. And at the time, I told him I didn't have a lot of money, and I only offered him a small amount of money. And yeah, he came back up and he grabbed the money. He told me that his mother already knew what was going on, and I just told him where was he going, and he had mentioned he was leaving and stuff. And yeah, I saw him leave. I saw him leave, and I didn't stop him. Just because I guess I was at that point in my life where I didn't want to go through it no more. I didn't want to see him go wrong. I watched him leave. I called his mother. I told him he left. And me, in my heart, I knew he was gonna come back later. He knew that in his heart that he was gonna come back later. Because he always did. No matter how many times I told him to not, he would always come back to me. My parents didn't know where he left. I lied to them, saying that he went to go visit his grandmother. I waited, and approximately around 7:40, 7:50, I sat on my bed. I asked God for forgiveness. I prayed to him. I asked him, and I told him that I loved him, and I didn't want this for him no more. I didn't want him to go through the same thing over and over anymore. I wanted better for himself, better for me, better for our kids. And I asked for forgiveness if I wasn't the best partner I could ever be. And in that moment, I got up and I felt sick to my stomach. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. And I just felt sick, and to keep my mind off things, I just decided to start cleaning, picking up, getting ready for bed, or getting ready to lay down with me and my kids. And around 8:30 p.m. I received a phone call. It was a local number, and I just honestly thought it was him, because he would do that sometimes. If his phone would die, he would call me from someone's cell phone or something. So I thought it was him. I picked up, and they had asked me if I knew who he was, and I said yes, I did. That's the father of my kids. And they had asked me to come down immediately to the hospital because he was in the ER. In that moment, my heart dropped. I asked them if everything was okay, if it was life-threatening, and they couldn't give me any specific details over the phone. And I said okay. And in that moment, I called his mother. Took me a couple of minutes to reach out to her because I couldn't really get to her at the time. And I had asked her to pick me up because he was at the hospital, the ER, and I didn't know what was going on. And in the moment she picked me up, it was already, I believe, 9 p.m., 9:10, around there, 9:20, I don't know. She picked me up, and she told me that they gave her a phone call as well, letting her know that he was at the hospital. And yeah, and death never comes to mind first thing when you find out someone's in the hospital. Well, at least not for me. Yeah, we were just thinking on our way to the hospital, maybe something happened, or maybe he tried pulling something and someone ended up hitting him or hurting him and he's alright, or maybe it was an overdose and they found him on time and, they're pumping out his stomach or who knows. As we got to the hospital, they took us in, but what I felt was strange was that we didn't go and see him right away like you normally do when you get to the hospital and go to the ER if someone's there. They took us into this room and we were waiting there for a couple minutes till they told us the doctor will be coming in shortly. And it all just looked strange to us. It looked very strange. And in a moment the doctor came and he was talking to us. He was found unresponsive in the streets. I believe he had vomit and in his mouth. That's what he told me, and I believe he was unresponsive. They performed CPR on him for 20 to 30 minutes on him where he was found. And when he reached the hospital, they performed CPR as well, but his heart rate was flatline and they couldn't get a pulse back. In the moment, I was shocked. I didn't know how to react. Like I tell everybody, I can never forget my mother-in-law's scream. I always hear her scream in my mind. I was so mad. I was so mad. I thought the doctor was lying to me. I was mad. I didn't want to believe it. If I just had seen him not too long ago, I was with him, and just to see and hear that he's gone didn't seem real to me. I was mad because why did he leave? And until this day, it feels unreal. To this day, all that runs through my mind is all the would've, should've, could've. And then didn't hit me until I saw him laying there on the hospital bed. He was getting cold. I didn't know how to react. I lost my best friend. The only person who loved me for me. The only person who always cared about me. I'm doing my best every day to be strong for him, for my kids, and just for myself. It's not getting any easier. As days go by, I feel like it's getting harder and harder. And though I know he's in a better place, he's no longer suffering here on earth. It just hurts because he had a whole life to live. and it was cut short. I have a lot of friends, people I know who struggle with depression, struggle with bipolar disorder, struggle with even addiction. And I'm doing my best to help them. If I can't help them physically or financially, or, at least I can help them verbally by giving them advice, being there for them. Look at how many people, it's not easy. I can't relate to any of your pains. I can't relate to any of your depression feelings. I can't relate to your addictions. I can't relate to your bipolar disorder. And all I can honestly do and say is there's a whole world out there for you. And you can do better. And you can be better for yourself and for others. Nobody ever wants to see a loved one go, or to bury someone they truly love and care about. You can seek help. You can change. A person can change. That's only if they want to. But it can happen. And I'm sorry, I got very emotional in this video. I'm always here for anybody who needs advice or who's struggling through something. It doesn't have to be depression, bipolar disorder, or addiction. Give me anything, any advice. I'm always here. I just want to thank you guys for watching my video, and thank you for following along and keeping up with my journey. And I hope you guys stay tuned for my next video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.